Over the past few days, I have been working and doing a ton of research on launching a new physical product for my small business, and it brought me down the road of trying to figure out and think of how to prototype a product, do some product research, figure out material costs, pricing, fees, and everything to basically drive myself to understand what the selling price would be for that product. As I've looked at my notes and everything, I thought, whoa, wait a second. This would probably be a pretty good video for Samcraft. So here you go. Hey everybody, my name is Sam. Welcome back to Samcraft. That's right, in today's video it's going to be another small business tips and tricks. Sam spilling the beans, so to speak, and giving you guys some information, some lessons I've learned, some things that I've learned in hopes that it helps you with your small business, your side hustle, or just in general. So I have a list here from my notebook and I'm just going to tell you guys my bullet points. I'll talk to you. But during this whole thing, I will overlay video of me doing some product production here in my shop. My newest product that is launching, my first physical Samcraft product. You guys will see it kind of roll with footage, maybe clips inserted here and there. But otherwise, I'm trying to keep your interest engaged because we've all got short attention spans nowadays. Let's jump into the first bullet point, the first recommendation, the first thing I always do when I'm thinking about a new product, gathering intel. Let's say you have a great idea. Let's say you're going to make a widget, and this widget is amazing. The first thing I want to do is look and see, is there a market, is there a demand for this widget, and where does that demand live? Once I've found that, I then look at the market for the widget and find out how saturated is it. Are there a ton of other companies selling the widget? Has the widget been a fad and it's kind of dying? Or is this truly a unique thing with not a lot of competition? That would be the best case scenario, by the way. Once I've convinced myself that there is a market and there is a demand for this product, the next thing I do is research who my competitors would be. Who else is selling this similar item or items like it, and who would be competing with me for business, or who would I be competing with for business, vice versa. Who else is going to be playing in that arena with your widget? Once you find those people or those sellers, you can then look at their product presentation. How a product is presented online is it, the end-all be-all for conversions and sales online. When people are shopping online, they can only use their eyes to shop and learn and choose whether or not to buy a product. So how your product is presented is pretty much 90% of what it takes to start to convert people into customers. I will look at a competitor's presentation and I will think to myself, can I meet this? And can I beat this? If I cannot even meet the product presentation style of my competitors, I may decide to not proceed. That may vary though, depending upon what my price is and what their price is. Obviously, if someone is selling something that looks amazing, the product presentation is great, but they're at $100 per unit, and you know, after you do your math, that you can produce it for $20 per unit and sell it for $30, maybe you're okay not doing as good of a presentation. That would be acceptable. So it's kind of one of the things I always take into account. As I progress through my list, you're going to realize that there are a lot of footnotes, a lot of, this is the rule, unless this also applies, then that's not the rule, and it's a very fluid situation. This is definitely not a start to finish 1 through 10 list. Once you get to 10, you're done. You're going to repeat, go top, bottom, left, and right, over and over throughout the prototyping, product research, and every bit of stage of this fun adventure of creating a product. So those are the high-level things that I put under my gather intel category or heading to check the market for saturation, check the product presentations of my competitors, and can I meet or exceed it, get to know the competitors, see that there is a market, there is at least some competitors, but not too many, and of course, are you able to price something competitively? Up until this point, I will have done all of this research generally without actually making the product, because I want to do market research before I start doing physical product creation or prototyping. Actually, prototyping is what you're doing next. It's actually bullet number 2. Prototyping a product is one of the things that I am very, very adamant for. You will have a design in your head and you will make something and you'll say, you know what? This thing that I've made is the best. It is amazing. You give it 2 hours, maybe a day, you go back and look, you'll start to find things you want to tweak. You'll start to find, oh, what looked amazing this way, oh, I can see the flaws when I turn it around. so you want to make another one. And you'll keep doing that over and over until you finally have a product that you can leave there. You can look, it can sit there for a day or two, and you don't find yourself tweaking it anymore. In my opinion, that's what you should do before you ever launch a product. Over my shoulder in the background, you are somewhat getting a view of the actual practicing of what I'm preaching. I have some cordless tool holders that I've designed that are French cleat mounting. They are universal in style, and they are made on a laser, or at least cut on a laser. The goal for that is to offer flat pack cordless tool holders that are French cleat, that are universal, and to people who have workshops but maybe don't have laser cutters. The things that are holding those tools right now, the actual holders themselves, I'm pretty sure is my 9th iteration. I have gone through 9 stages to reach what for me is the actual finished product. So when I talk about prototyping, believe me, I am practicing what I preach. It makes a big difference. The worst thing in my mind to do is to launch a product, sell it to your initial customer base, and have junk reviews, or have people that are just silent about their purchase. Because usually if they're silent, they are unhappy, but they are polite. It's probably the second worst customer you can have. The first worst is unhappy and unpolite and knows how to leverage social media. Next up on the list is one that I love to say, do the maths. Does the math out when you math it together? Yes, we're talking about money. Alright, so first up is expense to produce. And for this particular thing, I am only talking about how much it costs in raw material to take the material and create the product. I'm not including the structure you create within, your overhead expenses for electricity, your tools, your education to do that. None of that is included in this. This is just the raw material, what it costs to produce. So first up is that raw material. And whenever I figure out my material cost, I obviously look at what I purchased for my prototypes. I find out, let's say for example, a sheet of plywood cost me $5. And out of that one sheet, I could get 5 products. Off the top of your head, you would say, okay, great, my material cost is $1. Good, let's move on to the next step. But remember that you paid for shipping, remember that you paid for taxes, and remember anything else you may have added on to that. So when I take that into account, I might be looking at more of a price of around $1.50 per product. It all depends on your economies of scale. Did you buy 1 board? Did you buy 100? And stuff like that. But definitely remember to take into account your shipping, your taxes if you pay that or not, and also drive time, stuff like that. So definitely don't just think of sticker price is your true material cost, because it rarely ever is. Once I have my material cost pinned down, I then look to the things that I consider consumables. Items such as sandpaper, actual finishes themselves, and things that really you use to take a raw item and convert it into a finished piece, or the piece that you will be selling. Next up is packaging. Now, don't just hear this and think, okay, it's a box. You can get those free from the United States Postal Service. I'm gonna skip this one. I'm gonna glaze out, Sam. Nope, hang on. There's a lot more that should go into this than what you're initially thinking. Other things that I include in packaging are filler paper or crinkle paper or some kind of stuffing to keep your product from banging around and breaking. In addition to that, things such as customer care cards, product cards, assembly instructions, your business cards, stickers, anything like that to help increase your customer's experience and usability of your product. I definitely include that in my packaging. And then of course, if it is something that the customer does need to assemble, if you are going to give them assembly pieces, whether it be adhesives, sandpaper, finishing, anything like that, and also the packages that those things go inside that then gets put inside the package. Okay, what I mean by that is like little Ziploc pouches that things go in that then go in the box. All of this I consider under packaging. It's one of those things you really got to think about. And as you've done your prototypes up to this point, right, you did do your prototypes, it'll be things that you will have learned, you'll have seen what you need, and you'll have a better understanding as this progresses. So to summarize my expenses to produce: materials, consumables, and packaging. Those are the 3, but there's a lot of little guys inside of each that really add up to be how much it costs to produce an item. Alright, next up, let's talk about the bane of every online seller's existence: fees. That is a four-letter word if I ever heard one. Depending upon your platform where you sell your product, this is going to vary quite a bit. Whether you list and sell them on your own website, whether you list solely through social media, whether you use online retailers such as Amazon, Etsy, or eBay, they're all going to be different, and you really need to research them all to have a best understanding to be able to calculate your product price in the end. Some common fees that you probably run into that you need to look for: listing fees. Are you going to be charged just to list an item for sale? Selling fees. Is there a fee based upon what price you sell your item or when you sell it? Transaction fees. And once the customer pays you for it, are you then charged any kind of transaction fees for the money to go from their account to yours? Shipping fees. Of course, shipping costs money. Are you going to include that? Are you going to have your customer pay for it? What are you going to do with that and your order fulfillment? And then lastly, I put in here taxes, but honestly, if you're calculating your taxes correctly and appropriately, unless you are including taxes in your product price, there should be pretty much nothing to calculate here. The customer should have that calculated and added, and it gets added to the price and then passes on to the state or government entity. But it is something to think about. No doubt there are some pros and cons of using online sources such as Etsy, eBay, and Amazon based upon the amount of fees and hidden charges they like to tack on for sellers. There are a lot of people who think those are terrible. They are adamant against it, and honestly, I was that person up until recently. Here recently, my eyes have been opened a little bit to realize while you are paying for something to be sold, you get quite a bit in return for that relatively small amount you do pay. You have a reputable source for all your customers to congregate and gather, to kind of be in, looking around at all the products to buy, and you are presented to them as well. So really good customer reach. You also have things such as shipping discounts through these large retail or large platforms. Their partnerships with shipping carriers, generally they can get some good deals that small businesses don't really get. And then of course, things such as search engine optimization, putting your products front and center on search results, and helping to promote your product. It's all things that you can get by choosing to pay for the service, so to speak, by your fees to list and sell. As of the making of this video, I sell on 2 platforms under the Samcraft brand. I sell on my own website, which is sam-craft.com, and I sell on Etsy through the Samcraft store on Etsy. I will probably be expanding into the eBay market pretty soon as I look towards offering more physical, tangible products to sell, but for now, my website and Etsy are the 2 that I use. Last up on the do the maths category, because this has been a big one, is labor. What hourly wage do I want or do I have to pay for labor? And then also, what are my machine rates? One is going to be easier to figure out than the other. For me, the hourly rate is a lot easier to figure out than how much do I charge for a machine to run. So let's say, for example, I want $30 per hour. I want to be able to pay myself $30 per hour to make and work inside my workshop. I then figure out, okay, in that hour, how many of this particular product can I make, divide them, and that's my labor charge per product. When it comes to machine rates, my current model, now this is definitely subject to change, especially if I get some really good comments like I usually do from these videos, but right now my machine rate is only calculated or charged on custom one-off pieces. I do not include machine rates and charges on large production products, things that I will be making a lot of over and over and over. It's just easier for me with my mental math head here to only think about my personal hourly rate and let the machine be kind of consumed in operating costs. As far as custom one-off products, I have heard the kind of going rate of $1 per minute for machine time is what others will charge. I don't know if this is high or low because I have yet to do that. I do offer customized products, but generally I include those in the product price under my hourly rate a little bit, and I don't know, I guess I've kind of just been fudging on that one and letting it be for now. Like I said, I may change this based upon your comments in the video, so if you use or you charge machine time, hourly wage, and all of that, and you would like to share, I'm definitely all ears. So once you have these 3 things figured out, your expense to produce, your fees and your labor costs. You can put those together to know what it costs for you to produce your product, what you should be selling it at, or at least you know your break-even point. Which brings me to the last kind of subject of this whole product pricing research thing that I do, and that's what I call check and optimize. At this point, I've got my break-even point, that dollar amount. I look at it with my intel that I gathered on my market research, and I say, is it too expensive? Are other people selling an item at $20 when it costs me $25 to make it? If so, I then go back and see if I can check and optimize any of the previous steps. Is there a way to reduce my material costs? Is there a way to reduce my labor costs? Anything and everything of the sort. Go back, reevaluate your workflows and your processes, and see if you can lower your break-even point down to where it meets your competitors. Other questions that I will ask myself once I have the intel and the math and everything figured out is, well, is this doable? Is this something that now that I have seen everything start to finish, I've done my prototypes, do you still want to do this? That's something I honestly ask. And I've had some products that I go through the process of everything and decide, you know what? It's just not worth it. It's one of the perks of being your own boss. If you don't like doing something, generally you can just quit doing it. So as I look back at my list here, you can definitely see how I will work through parts and restart, make it down a little bit further and go back up over and over. Creating a product, honestly, I don't think ever ends, but whenever I get to the point that I'm ready to launch it for public purchase, I've usually gone through it quite a bit, and I feel like it's a pretty good thing. Number one thing in business is if you're not making money, then you really shouldn't be doing it. I mean, obviously, we're in the business for business, and having money coming in to run the business is kind of important for the business. I've had some products that I've gone through this step with and decided, you know what, there just isn't enough money to be made in it, or my labor is too intensive for me to continue with this product. It's time to close it out. There have been products in the past that I've made and sold for a while that just kind of fell into the same category, and I just sunsetted them. I kind of phased them out. That's going to be one of the things you got to be okay with doing with your business. It's your business, by the way, right? So that's the perks of being your own business owner. You can decide what works, what doesn't work, and you can change it as you need to. That was a lot of information to throw at you guys. Hopefully it was beneficial. I don't know, maybe you wrote some notes down, or you're going to rewind this and take notes. If you do, I hope that it's helpful for you. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. This, honest to goodness, is the actual steps that I use for making products. And while I don't have the arrogance to say this is it, this is the perfect method, I at least know this works good for me. But I'm really interested to know what differences you do with your business, what you would like to do differently, or if there are things that I didn't cover. Yeah, definitely let me know. If I could leave you with one statement that has been very applicable to my business as far as mentality and just kind of structures, it's a saying that I don't know where it came from, but it is that I would rather sell one product at $100 than 10 products at $10. That may sound greedy at first, but my mindset behind that is that if I can create one item for the same income of 10, that leaves me 9 other items that I could create to bring in more income, or that leaves me 9 times more life to live, to be with my family and friends. Don't know, maybe that's in-depth, maybe that belongs on a fortune cookie, or maybe that was just kind of cheesy. Either way, appreciate you guys watching. You got any questions or comments, leave them for me down below. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.